for you, and I am not one of them. They primarily are Ed Darling, Beth McCall, Pam Michelle, and the incomparable, insufferable, long-suffering Nan Knight, who is the graphic designer that made sense of what we kind of envisioned. So those are the folks that worked really hard, and I'm so grateful to them because as you have picked up on me a little bit, numbers make me shake, okay? I'm not a numbers person. I understand that we need them and we operate in them, but I'm not a numbers person. I'm a people person, and so when it comes to numbers, I desperately need the gifts of other people, and these fine folks were that for this process. So I'm going to turn it over to Beth. She's going to walk us through the first page, I believe, and then you're stuck with me on the second page.
Okay. Does everybody have? So I am very pleased to help share. For those of you that have known me for a long time, you know that I have been in the nonprofit world in Marion County for over 40 years. And I believe very strongly in telling the story and not talking about the numbers. So as we share with you today about our narrative budget, I'm going to start with this, and I will finish with this before Jeremy comes up. So the budget numbers of St. Paul's does not define who we are. Does not define who we are. What we do with those numbers defines who we are. As we walk through this journey, keep that in mind. 2 years ago, or I think before COVID, remember, seems like the year of COVID was blank. But this church went on a mission. And if you'll remember, we spent a lot of time on that vision. And we came up with some pillars: church family, worship, and community. We've broken this budget down into those 3 pillars. And what the first page is what we did in 2022 with our story, with those budget numbers. So 45% was spent in worship, which is an incredibly important part of this narrative, because if we are not here worshiping together and having all of these things, the clergy support, the music, audiovisual, music and licensing fees are included in that because we don't want to have legal fees included in that, and this beautiful facilities. If we're not worshiping together, coming together as a church family through worship, is very difficult for us to go out there and share our discipleship in the field that we're designed to go into. Our family, very, very important that we are nurturing our church family and those youth and those children. They are our church of tomorrow. So we must steward them through our church and family. 32% of last year's budget went to our church family. Our small groups, discipleship, church-wide events that we had. And we're all hoping that maybe we can get back to packing those bags of rice again. Again, facilities. We can't be who we are if we can't pay the bills on this facility and on the school and on the fellowship hall. We can't do that. We can't be disciples of Christ if we don't have the Jeremys, if we don't have Deb Pritz. We can't be that. And then 23%, and we really want to grow this, is our community. What are we doing in outreach to our community? Our preschool, piece by piece. Scouting, which is so important to this church. Our Fort McCoy School Partnership. And there's so many other things that we can do with that partnership. Interfaith Emergency Services. Trunk or Treat. What a great time everybody had. Open Arms, our apportionments, and again, facilities. Now we're going to end this year with about a $15,000 deficit. And I'm hoping that we end this year with no deficit at all. So as we look into the future, I had a CEO that told me one time, no money, no mission. I would love for St. Paul's to be that church when they hear St. Paul's United Methodist Church all over town. Oh, you're the church that does this in the community. You're the church that does this. No money, no mission. The budget numbers do not define who we are. We are defined by who we are with what we do with those numbers.
Thank you, Beth. A couple quick things before we flip over. We've kind of thought of this narrative budget as page 1 and page 2, and Beth led us through page 1. As you see, that just says St. Paul's narrative budget there. You will see these dollar amounts. The 45%, the 32, and the 23. Those are real numbers. What is not included in that, which I think bears repeating, you see that gray stripe across the bottom that says special activities and campaigns funded in 2022. That amount is around $23,000 that was funded by you because you're generous people for those things that are not included in the budget. So to be clear, because of this isn't this isn't an indictment, but things such as the youth trip to Rock the Universe they took this past January was not in the budget. Refreshing the parsonage when Robert and Heather moved out and we moved in wasn't in the budget. Those were special asks that so many of you stepped up and gave towards. And so they weren't. So when we look at this, we also need to understand that there's a lot of generosity happening here, even over and above what has been given toward budgeted. And so part of what we're looking towards on the back page is working to start to incorporate some of those needs that we understand are important in our budget so that we don't have to ask over and above the regular budgetary ask. Does that make sense? Those are specially funded things that happened outside of your budget, which is where you see this pie chart. So, and I know you're going to have lots of questions, and that's why we want to kind of move through this so that you can ask your questions. Turn the page for me. 2023 and beyond. We wanted to split 2023 and beyond, this idea of where we would like to go, where we envision ourselves moving to. We wanted to split it up into 3 categories, much like we did on the front page. But we quickly found that one category spans all pillars of our life together. And that's what we just titled Meet the Need. There are things that we cannot escape from when it comes to the mission and ministry of St. Paul's, and they affect the worship pillar, they affect the community pillar, and they affect the church family pillar. And so you'll see there, rising costs of utilities. We all know that reality. Amen? That's happening here. We are not immune to that at the church. The increases that you're feeling at your home, we're feeling them here. That is something that we're going to have to meet that need. Facility repairs, upkeep of the grounds, and the need to proactively address aging technology. We cannot just forget about the facility. We have a lot of cost-cutting mechanisms in place, like we're asking you to come and help us trim some hedges next Saturday morning, right, to pull some weeds. We have a church member who mows all of the grass of these 11 acres and the parsonage to save us money. We have a lot of cost-saving things in place, but these needs are things we can't ignore, and we're going to have to realize that just like at your home, this facility has things that go wrong. It's going to have air conditioning that goes wrong. It's going to have a window that needs to be replaced. There's going to be a soffit that is rotting. We're going to have to, you know what I'm saying? Those are just the realities. Our infrastructure here when it comes to technology, it is sufficient, most days. Let me say that very clearly. Am I right, Sharon? When you were at home and you were trying to watch worship and be here, there were some Sundays that it was sufficient, and there were some days that it wasn't. And it has nothing to do with the people behind the board. It has to do with the infrastructure and the technology we have. It is aging. And so we need you to know that we would love to be in a position in 2023 to actively and be proactive and not wait till, we already lost one projector. It's only time before that one goes out. Are you with me? Those are just realities we have to face. Like I said, these needs span all three pillars. $30,000 is what we estimate we can't sit on our hands about. That $30,000 is going to happen. It's going to hit us whether we like it or not. That's just the reality of rising costs and some infrastructure needs, okay? So that's kind of an unquestionable number. Are we clear? The growing in grace piece, we would love to renew and relaunch ministries. We would love to be back to a vibrancy in this place that you all speak of pre-COVID-19. We would like to be able to invest in certain things. We would like to be able to engage new people both inside and outside of our church family. The worship ministries are excited and have talked at length about looking for ways to expand new expressions of music. That is not free. Some of it can be, but a lot of the infrastructure and trying to launch new programs is going to have some costs behind it. So we want to make sure that you're aware of that. And we're trying to cast a vision of that to see what could be, not just sitting on what is, if that makes sense. Reaching out in love, we would love to have an extra $5,000 to think about how can we not just show up, but how can we help support these mission partners that we really value. Folks here really value interfaith emergency services because it's been here for a while and you guys have lived here, most of you, long enough. You can trust that organization. We show up and we serve, but what would it mean for us to engage and say, hey, we've got $2,500 this year that we want to help undergird some of your expenses. It goes a long way in a nonprofit like that. What would it look like for us to have some of those funds to be able to do that, to step up and say, we're not just going to feed you once a month, but we're going to help undergird the salary of one of your staff people. That means something, right? That's the kind of stuff we're looking to think about, to expand in. We would like to not have Trunk or Treat be our one and only neighborhood event. One of the things that I was so excited about when I started to do my research on the location that we now sit is this was planted purposefully. It wasn't an accident this church was planted here, right? It was planted on purpose. 11 acres. What would it look like for us to have a spring block party, right? To where we have all these things for kids and families and they come and they start to realize, oh, these people love Jesus and they're not that weird, right? What would it look like for us to be able to do things like that, right? Because that's what last weekend was about. It was about those 400 and so children and families that came through that hopefully felt the love and the warmth of Christ whenever they came by our trunk. It was to help them know that, hey, yeah, we love Jesus and we believe that there's an order to this world and we want to be a part of this type of faith, but we're not handling snakes. We're not kicking people out because we don't agree with them. There's a different way to go about this faith thing, and I believe we do it really well here. But it's one of those things where those of us that have been around for a while, it isn't so much if you build it, they will come. You have to come to them. And so some of that, creating neighborhood events and creating opportunities for folks to connect with us and actually going and being a part of other events. Actually saying we don't expect people to come in our doors when we unlock them on Sunday morning, but actually going and being a presence at FAFO. Going and setting up a tent and handing out water for free and being a part of hospitality at these events that happen all over Marion County. That's what we're talking about here. If we don't do those type of things, it doesn't matter how much we love Jesus in here, okay? We're not going to grow. We're not going to fill this place back up. We're going to be who we're going to be, and I'm not saying we can't be faithful in that, but what if God was calling us to something bigger and something brighter? That's what this page is about. This is about casting a vision. You see the gray circle around that pie chart on the back page? Here are some of the things that it looks like for growth, okay? Vacation Bible School. Veronica is ready and has already started planning us to have a Vacation Bible School next year. When's the last time VBS has happened here? 5, 10 years? 4 years. It's been 4 years. Thank you, Kelly. So 4 years, that's not been an expense that you've incurred. So guess what? if we want to put it back in there, we got to fund it. It's a reality. Mission partnerships I talked about. Staffing. We, right now, have a volunteer coordinator of children's ministry. Volunteer. Doesn't collect a check. We have a volunteer director of music ministry. Doesn't collect a check. We can't function like this forever. I just want to be honest with you. It's not sustainable. And so staffing those positions in the coming year is a reality that we need to be very mindful of and be very honest about. Rising utilities we talked about, neighborhood events I just talked about. And friends, it would be great if we could get to a place over the next couple of years, and granted, this is a vision statement and trying to cast a vision to where we have some finance reserves. So that when it's November 6th and you see that we're projected a $15,000 deficit by the end of the year, we have a little bit so that your church leadership can know, okay, we may be in a deficit reality, but we have a little bit of reserve so we can continue to do Advent the way Advent needs to be done. Does that make sense? It doesn't say we don't have to worry about it. We don't need to stop calling our people to give, but it means that we don't have to totally change the really important things about the life of this church. You see the percentage of worship, right? Advent's a great time. We're going to see people that we haven't seen all year over the next 2 months of this church, right? We're going to see families that maybe are still a little bit connected but haven't really been here because it's Advent, it's Christmas. People are moving towards that and are going to be excited about that. We want to be able to do that, and the only way we can really do that faithfully is if in the coming years we have some finance reserves so that if we're in this situation towards the end of the year, we can better operate more faithfully. Does that make sense? So I'm going to shut up now. Pam is here. She was part of this. Ed is here. He was really crucial in helping crunch our numbers. Beth helping us all along the way. And we're here to answer your questions. Will Gellner, our chair of finance, would be here, but he happens to be in Texas at a family wedding, and we guessed that was okay, that he was going to do that. But he'll be here next Sunday for the next group. But we want to answer your questions. And there's other folks here that serve on leadership committees and finance, I know. So we want to make sure that if you have questions about anything on this, that you ask them. Yes, ma'am. Vacation Bible School is going to be at least $1,000. Oh, sorry, because people on live stream. Thank you, Ed, for reminding. The question was, what does Vacation Bible School, what's kind of a cost, a price tag to that? I think the floor is probably $1,000. If we have 1,200, that's a little bit more we can do. If we have 1,500, that's a little bit more we can do. So Veronica has been thinking about that, and she's actually got some numbers already kind of ready based on what she can do for this amount. But if we were able to say, hey, Veronica, we're going to have $1,500, that just means that's even more we can do, So that's kind of where we are. There. What I threw out, the question was, what are other things we would like to add, such as like a spring block party or a neighborhood event? I could throw out a number just off the top of my head. Probably at least $1,200, $1,500 to do it well and do it right, in my opinion. Doesn't mean it can't be done for less, because it probably could. But if we're trying to get hundreds of people like we had on campus, we're going to have something that draws them here. And so we did so well last week because of the volunteers that just brought all that candy. But can you imagine how much candy that cost? That was a lot of money, right? Yes, Veronica can tell you it was a lot. Beth.
We have the actual budget numbers. Anybody that wants to actually just see what last year's 2022, we don't have 23? Yeah. So, Pam, come on up. Pam, you need to come up. We're live streaming, so they can't hear you on live stream.
If you look at the budget for 2022, what you do not see in it are these particular kinds of events as budgeted items. We did some because as a congregation we reached into our pockets and gave to support them. But if they're in the budget, you won't find that in 2022. And truly, a reflection of the increase, what we expect to be an increase in the budget, would be inclusion of things like that. So I think you have to go way back to begin to find those in any budget we've done. So.
I know you got more questions than that. I know you got more questions than that. Yes. Is anybody commenting anything online, Ed, that you know of? Any questions that we can answer for anybody that's online? You can comment, and Ed will relay those to us, or someone will.
While we're waiting for those questions, I do want to share something about your Finance Committee. Over the last year, they have worked extremely hard watching every penny to the point of approving what checks were going to be written on what week starting fairly recently. Jeremy's been involved in this process, and you can be proud of what they've been doing to help us get through this time. And we are getting through it, and God continues to bless us. So what I would not like to see happen with all of this information that is so very important is that you leave here panicked, because this is not panic mode. This is just information mode and where we're looking forward to the future. So.
I believe, and the committee that put this together, they share this belief that any and all ways we can utilize tools like this to tell the story and to help you understand where your money is going and how your investment is being used in God's kingdom, we need to take it. And so that's what this tool is. And then this page, the flip side is where we could go. Some of this, we're going to have to go, right? Meeting the need, that number right there, that's really inescapable realities for us. But the other is where we could go, how we could start to think about including and restaffing some positions and to expand and build on things like what last weekend through Trunk or Treat was like. Because we have lots of resources here. I mean, this 11 acres and the facility that you all call home, it's a resource, right, to be used and utilized. And so part of it is thinking and casting a vision of where we could be. Would I love to see our budget increase by, $70,000 when you all turn in your pledge cards? Yes. Do I expect that to happen? No. But that $70,000 is something I think we should be working towards. We need to be proactive about it. We need to be thinking. We need to be talking to our brothers and sisters who share this mantle of discipleship with us and encourage them. We don't have to ask them a dollar amount, but say, are you growing in your giving? Do you trust your church? And if not, we need to have a conversation about that. You need to come and talk to me if you don't trust your church, because we need to rebuild that trust. That's what all this is for. Okay. Anybody any online questions that we know of? No. Okay. Explain that a little bit. Crystal asked about partnerships with local businesses. What specifically are you looking and asking? We have done that in the past. For instance, I know that, if I'm not mistaken, when we had to cancel the food truck family night, he was planning to make, Big Lee's was planning to kick back a certain amount of what was brought in that day. Yep. Like a 10% of the night kind of thing. Yep. And we can look and talk about that further with local businesses of doing that, of whether it's a community night at their establishment or bringing them in to partner with us for neighborhood events. Bounce and Jump, or is it Jump and Bounce? Bounce and Slide Ocala, who was here last week, they're a preschool family, so they gave us a little bit of a discount on the rates, and so they had a booth here, and they were handing out freebies at Trunk or Treat, and so that's an example of we didn't get it for free, but they gave us a good deal, and we had a church member step up and say, "I'll fund that," because it wasn't in the budget. We had a church member step up and say, that's important that the families are here and their kids are drawn to that. And so somebody funded that. So thank you, Crystal, for reminding us that there's lots of opportunities like that we need to be thinking about. Thank you, Crystal. Right. Yeah. Right. Right. Donna reminds us that our grounds are really important. And if we were to have been paying someone that we didn't know, that's a company that comes in, they may not take the same care that maybe we do, and they're limited to do that. And so if I hear what you're implying, when we have opportunities to come up here and do that as people who care about this property and understand its value and how it to be used, that's a good opportunity to save some costs and to take care of what we've been given. That's a stewardship thing, right? You know, we've been gifted this. How do we take care of it? How do we steward it? How do we make sure it's there for the future? From the scouts, yeah, there's a huge pile when you leave. If you'll look down there by the fellowship hall, the scouts were here this weekend, and they camped out, some of them for the first time, right? Teresa's here with us, and they picked up saplings and really cleared out so much. So they've got a great head start on our work project for next week. So thank you, Teresa, and our scouts for ways that they give back and serve this church as well. So we can learn a lot from them. Please take this home. Please don't fold this up. It would make a good airplane, but don't do that. Look at it. Look at these numbers. Pray over these numbers. And start thinking about these realities because, friends, on the back page, that meet the need, like I said, we're either going to have to deal with that number or it's going to deal with us. That's just the truth about where we are. Like was previously stated, when you see that deficit, we're not trying to tell you doom and gloom. We're just trying to be honest with you where we are right now. I think that we're going to come through. I have faith. I have faith that we're not going to end that way, that we're going to be in the black by the end of the year. But that's going to take all of us putting our hand on the rope and pulling it the same direction. It's going to take some people, whether you or others that are here, making a year-end gift. I don't know, that maybe you didn't anticipate. It's going to take those things. And for 2023, it's probably going to take most all of us to consider giving another 1% or 2% or what we can give, okay? Because, that's just the reality of where we are. And so I don't see that as a bad thing. I see it as an honest thing. It's what it means to be a church today. And I think we can meet that need. And, as Pam said, God's been with us thus far and has seen us through some lean times in the past. And we trust that God is going to see us through them now. So anything else to add, to question, to lament? Thank you, Ed, for all the work you've done. Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Nan, for putting this together for us. And hang on to that. If you have questions, reach out to one of us. And if we don't have the answer, we'll put you in contact with someone that may know the answer to that, okay? Let me pray for us. Holy One, thank you for the gift of being together. Even when we have to have honest conversations about stuff that's difficult, thank you that your Spirit abides with us and has been a part of this process. Thank you for the leaders that you brought together that have created this tool for us. And may it be utilized to not only create a better knowledge of things, but to spur us forward of what could be in the future. Help us to meet the future that you have for us in a way that is faithful and in a way that aligns with your heart for your church. In your name we pray. Amen.